Well, joining us now from New York is civil rights activist Reverend Mark Thompson. Good to speak to you this morning. I know we've spoken before, but goodness me, if ever this, if indeed it was a straightforward accident, if ever it could have come at a worse time, not obviously just for the person that lost their life and those that love them, but what a tense situation with this on top of. When did you first hear about the shooting, and what were your reactions?
Well, I heard about it, and first of all, thank you for having me. And as always, want to express my appreciation for the international community's interest in the issues we're facing here and the international community's solidarity. We're so appreciative of that. I heard about it like everyone else did, and went viral as soon as it happened. You're absolutely right that the timing could not have been worse, as we are all bracing in this trial, and quite frankly, we've seen this movie before. We've seen this movie a dozen times. There's a great deal of anxiety about the trial. We rarely see officers found guilty in cases like this. And so Minneapolis is already on edge watching the Derek Chauvin trial. Of course, Derek Chauvin, the one who killed George Floyd. And you have this in the same community. I know, I'm sorry.
No, carry on.
No.
I'm sorry. And I thought one of you was speaking. Forgive me. So to have this happen in the same community in Minneapolis, and to happen the in the country again, and we also, there have been other incidences I'm sure you've reported on just in the past few days, other incidents of police violence. We continue to have a problem with police violence in this country. We must do something about it. And again, what you all are doing, even around the world, shining a light, it's important. America likes to use its State Department and its diplomacy to assert itself around the world and be have some type of moral authority when it comes to human rights. But our human rights are being violated right here, right now in America.
Reverend Thompson, you know, I think the first question, and we know accidents happen. They do. You know, horrific accidents happen all the time. But the first thing is, my goodness, how could that have gone wrong? Especially as it now appears the officer was very experienced, some 20 years. And, you know, as the equivalent of our British Police Federation, she was sort of a senior figure in that, so an experienced person. How could that have happened? And I suppose people are wondering whether it comes out of an instinct and a suspicion of needing to use more force than one might imagine.
You said it first. I didn't. You are absolutely correct. That's exactly what's going on. There is an inherent suspicion when it comes to those of us who are African Americans, even when we, like George Floyd, in a prone position, even when we are somewhat apprehended in a vehicle. I mean, this was not a capital crime. This was not a death penalty offense. Whatever the crime is, we're still not clear on what the stop was about. We've heard several things. There was an air freshener, there was a warrant, but even if all of those things are true, that is not reason for someone to be executed summarily in the way that Daunte Wright was. We, on Wednesday here in America, and this is very historic, for the first time, the U.S. House of Representatives is going to mark up a bill calling for reparations for African Americans, not only for the enslavement period, but the vestiges of slavery, which include ongoing police violence. And until we address this issue in that way, with reparations and real change, this is going to continue to happen. But you're absolutely right. That if this had been someone else, not a person of color, I doubt very seriously that individual would be dead.
We don't know that, of course, do we?
Reverend Thompson, just to clarify that.
Clear. My words were, I doubt it.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm saying definitively, but I doubt it, because I'm not speaking out of speculation. This happens every day. There was an Army officer who was pepper sprayed over the weekend in uniform for no reason at all. We do know that we, without a doubt, that African Americans are disproportionately harassed, targeted, and even killed by police in America. We do
just
know
to
that.
clarify, Reverend Thompson, so what you're saying is that had she taken out the taser, which she claims that she was trying to take out the taser, had she taken out the taser and tasered Daunte, you're still saying that would be a disproportionate use of force and aggression, similar to the example you use of the army officer who was pepper sprayed we've seen in the petrol forecourt. You're saying even if it was a taser and not the gun, as it hasn't happened, that is still disproportionate?
Well, I think our encounters, our traffic stops even, are disproportionate. And again, I don't know what the circumstances, all of his legal circumstances were, what all the warrants were about, whether they were warrants. That is still being investigated and unwound. What I do know and can say for certain, and I would think all would agree, Daunte Wright did not deserve to lose his life.
Of course
George
not, but we have
Floyd
had a number of our viewers, just to point the other people's views that were reacting to the same footage that you've seen, that contacted us, to say he was going back into a car, he was trying to escape, was appearing in that moment to be resisting arrest. Those officers didn't know if he was reaching for a gun. That's what some people are saying. What would you say to that?
Well, he didn't, I mean, there was no evidence he had a gun.
No.
You know, I just don't see how that justifies him being killed.
No, of course.
Yeah, I mean, he was, what was pulled over for? I mean, that's what I'm having. The goal is to apprehend a suspect and bring them to justice, not to carry out judgment, sentence, and execution on the spot. And especially when police are under more scrutiny than ever before, for those who would make excuses about that, I just don't see how that's helpful at all. America is a powder keg right now. What good does it serve anyone to kill someone under those circumstances? And listen, people run from the police all the time, but if they're white, they don't get killed.
It feels to me, Reverend Thompson, despite any investigation that might now take place, and if the investigation exonerates the female police officer in question and says, yes, it was an accident, I don't think many people in the community are going to believe that, because it's in the landscape that we are in with other incidents that have taken place. So I don't think the investigation is going to help the cause. What is eventually going to help this situation? Under the Trump administration, people blame Trump. People blame the way the government was going. We're now no longer under that administration. What is going to change? What needs to change to see black people feeling safer on their streets, and for the police not to be accused each time they do end up in an incident of this, of racism?
Well, first of all, those of us in the African-American community were dealing with this before Trump. We didn't blame Trump. Trump exacerbated it and was even a symptom. So, no, it doesn't matter whether Trump comes or goes. Police have been killing us for decades. What will improve the situation is a policing that is more based in community and respect for the community, diversity awareness and sensitivity training, which I've been a part. I taught diversity awareness and sensitivity training in the DC Police Academy when I lived in Washington, D.C. and chaired the NAACP Police Task Force. So I'm not just someone talking about it, I'm someone who's been involved in the process. We trained officers on how to have regard for African Americans and human beings and African American lives. That needs to go on. We need more people of color and minorities, including women, although ironically here is a woman involved in this. But there needs to be more diversity in police departments. There needs to be more training in terms of what to do in situations like this and how to de-escalate situations. And lastly, the issue of qualified immunity. And some states are already doing that. And by that, I mean officers normally are indemnified when it comes to legal action like this. If officers understand that they could be personally financially liable in situations like this, I bet they'll think twice, too.
OK. Reverend Mark Thompson, we'll have to leave it there, and there's absolutely no doubt this discussion will continue for some time, and we look forward to some justice for Daunte and the details of any investigation that takes place in the coming days and weeks. But thanks for joining us this morning on Good Morning Britain.
Well,
Thank you for having me.
Good to speak to you as well. And that is our main news story this morning. Here's Charlotte.